Welcome back to Dev Odyssey, a developer's journey through IT, where I cover tutorials and reviews of IT tools and technology. I'm your host, Orst, and today we are continuing our Advanced Postman series with Postman Mock Server. So you may be wondering, what is a mock server? Well, a mock server is just a web server that hard codes API or web endpoints with static data or values. So, for example, as we've seen in previous videos, when we do an API call to Postman Echo, we generally get some kind of JSON response. Well, in this case, with a mock server, we statically code or hard code the response so that it always returns the same thing no matter what. No matter what query parameters we put in, no matter anything we change about it, it's always going to send back the same thing. So then you may be thinking, well, how does that serve me? How is that useful as a developer, tester, anything? Well, it's useful because, for example, when the front-end people or front-end developers are working on the application and they need to work with API backends to produce data, they can use these mocked endpoints so that they can continue to work on other parts of the front end while knowing that they receive backend data. And so this is useful because it doesn't stop their development. It actually helps them continue rather than hinder them, so they don't have to wait for something. They just continue working. And so that's really the biggest reason for mocking, and Postman obviously saw that as a need to have it in the tool, and let alone there's many other web tools that do the same thing. But without further ado, we're going to get started with creating our first mock endpoint or mock server. So up at the top left-hand corner, we click the drop down for new. And then we're going to click mock server. And here we have our 4 columns, which we can expand to 6 when we click the ellipses and add request body and description. So these should all be self-explanatory stuff we've already talked about before. But in general, you'll notice maybe something that's new about this is you see the URL there and double brackets or curly braces, and that's because that's our variable that's going to be created for us when we create a Postman environment or when we create a mock server, because the Postman environment's created for us automatically, or it's not, depending on what you choose. So anyway, here we're going to set up our first request with a GET request, and we're going to do this with creating a new collection. So this is as if I was making my own new collection and requests within those collections. So here I'm going to call this YouTube, and next here we'll have a request body. However, since I'm only doing a GET request, generally you don't have a request body with that, so we'll skip that. Description, we can say this is a test. Response code, we're going to leave it as 200, but you can change it to anything from 400, 404, 500, any type of response code that's valid. And then a response body. So in this case, we're going to create some JSON here. We'll just change those to double quotes. Okay, so now you've seen this is really all you need to do in this part of the steps. We can continue next. And here we give it a name. So I can call it YouTube test. In this case, I'm going to not select an environment because I want it to create an environment for me. But if we had one already set up, we can select that. Here we can make this mock server private with this checkbox. This means that you'll need to use Postman's API key in order to access this. And that's something we'll cover more in the Postman API video. And then the last one is save the mock server URL as an environment variable. And so that's that same variable I was talking about, that's a URL. So after this, you just click create mock. And at the end, you'll notice in the background, we actually have YouTube test created for us. And here's just some additional information about how to work with the mock server. All you really need to know is this right here is our URL, but that's already saved in a variable. And so you really don't have to worry about that. But just in case you didn't create an environment, it's something you want to know. So go ahead and click close. And now you'll see we have YouTube test here. We have our collection, and then we have a YouTube request. And here you'll see that this variable is unresolved, and that's because we need to select the environment. And then once we do, we see that we actually have that populating. So now we can just do a send. And there you have it. We received our mocked value back. It's very simple. But in this case, we're going to go through another example, which is creating a mock server with an existing collection. So what I'll do is I'm going to take a fork of Postman Echo, delete a bunch of the requests that we don't need, and then go ahead and make a mock server of that. The important part to know about when making a mock server for that is you actually need examples for your requests. If you do not have examples, it will not mock that endpoint. And so you'll see that as I go through this right now. And just to clean things up here, I'm going to go ahead and delete this collection. Once I do delete this collection, it'll actually delete the mock server for it. So I'll show you another way to delete that as well in the browse button at the bottom here. I go ahead and click mocks, and you see that we have this right here. We can make a copy of the mock URL, or we can delete it or edit it. So I can even change the request or anything behind this mock URL. So change the version tag, change the environment, etc. So go ahead and delete that. And so now we have no mocks. However, we still have our collection. But if we deleted the collection, we also would have deleted the mock too. And that's something I figured out through doing my own testing. So we're going to go ahead and find, let's see, up right on the bottom, delete. Go ahead and delete that. And now we're going to go ahead and create a new mock, and we're going to do it through mocks here. Actually, I still need to make a copy of that, so let's go ahead and do that first. So we're going to create a fork, my workspace, and I'll call this YouTube test. And now we're going to edit, and we're going to delete. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and delete everything except the top one. And now that we have this, we're going to go ahead and just make the mock server from this one. So here we see we have mock collection. There's another way you can create a mock server, and we'll just do that instead because now it's actually saved us a bunch of steps. Instead of going through new mock server and choosing a collection, here we just get to do it right on the fly. So name the mock server, we'll call this again YouTube test. We're going to keep the current version tag. And then we have an environment we can choose. So we can still choose a YouTube test, but in this case, I want to use a different environment. So I'm going to use no environment for now. So I'll create mock server. And now we'll have a mocked endpoint for it. So all we need to do is just make sure we copy this. Make sure we copy that URL, but because I clicked it, it actually opened up a new request for it. So now that I have this, I can use it to put as an environment variable and then go ahead and test out this new mock. So we're not going to save there. And here in our get request, I'll go ahead and, I'll choose this YouTube test. And I'm going to edit this value here. And it looks like it did not come through. So to get around that, I'm going to go ahead and go to the mock server, copy that URL. And we'll just copy it over the current value. So now it's going to use the current value as we've discussed before. Should go ahead and now that should be fine. And all I need to do here is everything after the last / here from .com. I just go ahead and make that URL. And now that we're on the YouTube test environment, go ahead and click send. And you'll see here we received our response back. And this is our example response. So if I click examples here, we'll see that this is the response it's hard-coded to send back. And that's what it uses when creating a mock collection. So to show you the example of that not working, I could do post raw text. You see that there is no example here. And so if I go ahead and just change this to URL, this won't work. It's not going to be able to find that mock endpoint. And you'll see we get an error from that saying we couldn't find the mock path. So all we really need to do is add examples for our requests, and then we're able to create a mocked endpoint for that. And so that really covers mocking with Postman. As you can see, it's really powerful in the ways we can help develop our APIs and further know a baseline to work against. So for example, like if you know what data you need to get back from data analysts and they tell you this server needs to return this type of data, you can go ahead and mock those so that as you're developing, you know what to work against. And or any development team or anyone you're collaborating with, they know what the endpoint that you're developing, how it's going to look. And so in the next video, we're going to cover Postman monitoring. And so this is a way to check the health of our APIs as they develop over time, and respond to any incidences or any things that if the APIs go down, we can go ahead and see that live. And so I'd like to thank you for watching this video. If you really got a lot out of this, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, a subscribe to my channel, and additionally notifications. If you want those, you can click the bell to get them. Thank you very much, and I look forward to see you in the next video with Postman monitoring.